Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I am Disco Kitty, the Crappy Crafter. Today, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to be testing some products. First thing we're going to test, Posca brush pen paint pens. I'm really excited about this. I don't know how long they've been on the market. When I ordered them from Amazon in the US, they came from Denmark, so that was pretty cool. It took like a week to get here or more, I don't remember. But I'm super excited about these. I don't know why. I haven't seen these on anybody else's YouTube channels yet, but I'm excited to test them. Next thing we're going to test is Tiff, the Not Tiffany blue paint from Stuart Semple. I'm hoping we'll have a lot of fun with that. And then we will also test out Wink, the whitest white. We'll see how that goes. Also from Stuart Semple. So, this is exciting. And without further ado, let's get into it. Let's first start with the Posca brush tip paint pens. Oh, I am so excited about these. Like I've said, or like I will say half a dozen times during the course of this video, I don't understand why I haven't seen more of these on other YouTubers' videos. The idea of a brush tip is just absolutely phenomenal. Shake the hell out of it. It has two caps. One for the button, and the button is how you fill it. You push the button and it pushes ink into the tip. Don't try to do the dab 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 thing, because that is not going to work on such a flexible tip. Use the button. It works surprisingly well. It takes a lot of presses, but with a normal marker, it takes a lot of presses anyway, so that is not uncommon. I just love watching the bristles fill with ink from the back. Now it's time to test them all. And a free size. That's just funny. There used to be a clothing brand where the clothes were all free size, and I actually used to be ever so slightly too small for them. Can you imagine that? Definitely not anymore. But these seem to be working pretty well. I really like the flow. I like the variability of the brush. It's not too soft, it's not too stiff. I think they're gonna work really well. Alright, let's motor through the rest of the colors. One little note about the gold. I hate the gold. The gold is just a silver pigment powder in a yellow base, and I hate that. It looks great on black, it looks horrible on white. I don't know why companies do that, but it's a common theme. Here we're going to try to see what happens when we mix two colors. So I'm going to pump out a bunch of ink and then I'm going to color over it with a different marker. And it seems to mix pretty well. Now we're going to go with the reverse and do it the other way, and we get a totally different color out of that. That is really cool. So there are going to be lots of ways to blend these together. Moving on to the Wink. It is not that easy to open, it's not that easy to close, and because it's a test tube, there is literally no place to put it down, which I'm just realizing now. But for an ink, it works really well. I'll say it again at the end. If I had realized that this was an ink and not a paint, I wouldn't be testing it this way. But to be fair, it tested pretty darn good. Or it will. We'll see. I feel like if you don't close this right, it's going to squirt on you. Now we'll start the comparisons. We will begin with the jelly roll. and the jelly roll will be white, of course. I've never been able to make jelly roll white work for me when I'm trying to do highlights in a painting, but I think it's because I always use the really tiny tip. I gotta use the bigger tip. Next, we'll go with the Arteza. I really thought that this laid down some wonderful white. The only problem I have with it is how shiny it is when it is all dry. It is the shiniest thing on this canvas. This is a super cheap highlighter acrylic paint marker that I got on Amazon. It's literally all it's called, acrylic paint marker. It works pretty well. It's not as nice as some of the other things, but it's not bad. Now we're moving on to the Posca, the PC3M tip, which is the fine tip. Next, we will test all of the brush tip Posca markers on the black canvas. These work pretty well, actually. Probably not as well as the solid tip Poscas would work, but you know what? I just love everything with the brush tip. And you can't really see it, but the gold is more gold on the black. It doesn't show the silver powder like it does when it's on the white. The yellow is the only thing that was super sheer, but that's okay because, you know, paints do that. Everything worked pretty well. I really liked them. I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun using them. Moving on to a Sargent acrylic paint. This was a lot thicker coming out of the bottle than I expected it to be. It sounded very sloshy, but it came out pretty thick. It went down just about as thin as I was expecting it to, so it's not very pigmented, despite how thick it is. And yes, I did just spell Sargent wrong. Gonna go back to the Wink. I shook it even harder, and it looks like it's coming out thicker and stronger. It's just wet. Don't let that fool you. By the time we're all done playing with this, those two Semple words will look pretty much the same, which is too bad because it looked like it was gonna work better. I mean, it doesn't work bad, don't get me wrong. I'm comparing an ink to paints, and this works really well. Next up, it's time to test Tiff, the not Tiffany blue. But you can see here, well, you can almost see here, it's not mixed quite as well as I expected it to be. And this stuff is gooey. Oh, let me tell you, this stuff is so gooey. It's stringy and gooey, and it goes down pretty well. But I definitely recommend watering it down because I will water it down in a bit, and it just works so much better and has much better flow. Right now it's just gooey and thick, but the color is absolutely lovely. See how stringy it is? String, gooey strings. So thick. Trying to write out Semple, I will wet my brush, add a little bit to the paint, and now it works so much better. This is me using it with just a little bit of water, not a lot, just enough to thin it down a smidgen. And the flow is nice. Time to test it on the white, and it's going to work just as well over there. And this is the watered down version, but still, it works, and I like it. Such a gorgeous color. I may have to paint an entire ducky just this color, just to have a Tiffany blue ducky. Well, I think those worked out pretty well. Let's look at them again in reverse order. Stuart Semple's Tiffany blue paint. It is a beautiful color. I honestly have no idea what color Tiffany blue really is, but when I saw this in the email, I knew I had to have it anyways, just because it is a gorgeous color. I love it. I love it. I'm going to use it forever, and I will have it forever because it's very thick and wonderful, and watered down, it is still just absolutely wonderful. Here, I used it straight out of the bottle. And here, I started to use it straight out of the bottle, but then I decided to try to water it down, and it worked really, really well. I also used it on the white paper, and as you can see, it's just as lovely on the white, and that is the watered down version. So, this paint is going to last me forever. Moving on to the Stuart Semple Wink, the white ink, and if I had remembered that it was ink and not paint, I wouldn't have compared it to white paints, but I did, so we'll move on. Here, you can see I played with it quite a bit. Well, I mean, you watched me do it, so here is the Arteza acrylic paint marker, which is much more shiny and glossy than anything else on here except for the gold and the silver, which are supposed to be shiny. A jelly roll pen, which of course will be slightly more white than a white ink would be because it is a gel, it's thicker. Here we have the Sargent paint, which I was surprised actually was pretty close to the Semple ink. I was expecting that Sargent paint to be super thin, but it wasn't, it was good. Let's see, oh yeah, the Poscas. I got the Posca PC3M and the Posca brush pens and all of the brush pen colors down here. They worked pretty well on the black. They could have been a little better. The yellow is a little sheer, but you know, you put a second layer on it, it'll probably be fine. So yeah, that's everything on the black. I also did the brush pens, the Posca brush pens on white paper, and that came out pretty well. They're very nice. And you can do a little bit of mixing and coloring, mixing and blending between the markers. I'll have to figure out a better way to do that. Maybe if I touch them tip to tip. Maybe if I touch the markers tip to tip, I'll be able to blend more colors together that way. Seriously, why does nothing come with purple? Why can't we have just a standard rainbow of colors? Nothing comes with purple. Makes me sad. Anyways, done with that little rant. So I think everything worked out pretty well. At some point I will have to dig out an ink pen because I have a couple, but I have no idea where they are because this is technically an ink. We'll have to try that with an ink pen at some point. But I haven't dug them out from when I moved 2 years ago. They might be over there. Honestly, I'm just too tired to look for them. So we'll try it another time. Yeah, I think this was a good test. It was fun, it was quick. Hopefully it helped you decide whether you want to buy some of the Wink, which is not on the website anymore, or if you wanted to buy some of the Tiff Blue, or if you want to get the brush pens. With all that being said, thank you for coming. See you next week, and until then, stay safe. Here's hoping that last try. Well, I think that all worked pretty well. Let's Oh, hi, baby. Have you come for snuggles? Do I get snuggles? Yes? Okay. Oh, so big. I love my snuggles so much. Purr for the people. Oh. I love my snuggles so much. Yes, I do. Ow, ow, ow. Claws. He's such a good boy. I love my good boy.